So the Indiana Fever did report tonight that Sophie Cunningham will be out for the remainder of the season with a knee injury.
The WNBA world just stopped. 2 minutes ago, Stephanie White dropped a bombshell that has fans, players, and analysts scrambling for answers. Sophie Cunningham's knee injury isn't just serious, it's career-threatening. The Indiana Fever's fiery star, the player who never backed down from any challenge, is now facing the biggest fight of her life. And what we've just learned about how this happened will make your blood boil. Picture this: Connecticut, with just under 8 minutes left in the second quarter. Sophie Cunningham is doing what she does best, driving hard to the basket with that fearless determination that made her a fan favorite. The game's intensity is building, energy crackling through the arena. But in one split second, everything changes. Bria Hartley loses control of the ball on offense, and instead of falling away from the play like any normal player would, she crashes directly into Sophie's knee. The impact is immediate and brutal. Sophie's body buckles, her leg twists at an unnatural angle, and suddenly the entire arena falls silent except for one haunting sound: Sophie's cry of pain echoing through the building. But here's where this story gets disturbing. The cameras caught it all, and what they captured will haunt you. There's Sophie writhing in agony on the hardwood, clutching her leg while tears stream down her face. And there's Bria Hartley not checking on her opponent, not showing concern, but grinning. Actually grinning like she'd just won the lottery. That single frame, frozen in time, shows everything wrong with what happened that night. A player's career potentially ending on one side and pure satisfaction on the other. What happened next is even more shocking. In any other sport, in any other situation, the broadcast would immediately cut to replays. Analysts would be breaking down the collision from every angle, debating whether it was intentional or accidental. But not this time. The cameras quickly cut away as if nothing happened. The commentary booth went eerily quiet. Even the production crew seemed to get the memo. Don't touch this one. The league itself was sending a clear message. We don't want to deal with this controversy. Social media had other plans. Within hours, that image of Hartley's grin was everywhere. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, fans were sharing it with words like malicious, reckless, and heartless attached to Hartley's name. People started downloading the footage themselves, slowing it down frame by frame, analyzing every millisecond of the collision. And what they found convinced them this wasn't some unfortunate accident. They saw Hartley deliberately drop her body into Sophie's path, saw the calculated way she positioned herself for maximum impact. The fan investigation didn't stop there. They started digging through old games, uncovering a disturbing pattern tied to Bria Hartley. What looked like an isolated incident suddenly became part of a much darker story. Dangerous plays, reckless fouls, a history of behavior that had been overlooked far too often. Each new discovery added fuel to the fire, painting a picture of a player whose aggressive style had crossed the line from competitive to dangerous. Then Sophie's family stepped into the spotlight, and their words hit like thunder. Her sister didn't hold back, calling Hartley a disgrace to the game in a post that immediately went viral. But it was Sophie's mother who delivered the most devastating blow, publicly branding Hartley as a hazard on the court who spreads chaos wherever she goes. These weren't just angry words from upset family members. This was a family watching their daughter's dream potentially slip away because of one player's reckless behavior. Sophie herself never launched into an angry tirade, never posted lengthy statements filled with rage. Instead, she did something more powerful. She simply reshared her sister's post, letting her silence speak volumes. In that small action, fans saw confirmation of everything they suspected. The victim was standing behind her family's anger, validating every accusation without saying a single word. Meanwhile, the WNBA's response was exactly what fans expected and everything they feared. Light penalties, minimal fines, the usual slap on the wrist. Here was a career-threatening injury to one of their most marketable stars, and the league's reaction was business as usual. For supporters watching this unfold, one question became impossible to ignore. Why does it seem like the league protects the players who cause harm instead of safeguarding the stars that fans actually pay to see? Sophie Cunningham had built her reputation on being fearless. She was the player who thrived under pressure, who attacked every possession with relentless determination. She never backed down from anyone or anything. But that reputation was shattered in Connecticut, replaced by the image of a player clutching her knee while her career hung in the balance. The collision didn't just threaten her physically, it challenged everything she represented as a competitor. The medical analysis makes this even more heartbreaking. When Hartley crashed into the outside of Sophie's right knee, the force drove it inward in what experts call a valgus load. Sophie's foot positioning made her vulnerable to hyperextension as her knee bent backward unnaturally. But as her body rotated and the collision struck from the side, it amplified the inward stress on multiple structures. The medial collateral ligament, which stabilizes the inner knee, likely took significant damage. There were fears of patellar dislocation, where the kneecap is pushed completely out of its natural groove. Athletes with this injury often can't straighten their leg, exactly what we saw with Sophie. While an ACL tear remained possible, doctors also had to consider trauma to the fibula, the smaller bone that can fracture under that kind of lateral pressure. But here's what makes this controversy even deeper. The technical analysis suggests this wasn't the calculated assault that fans believed it to be. The angle and force patterns, the way Hartley's momentum carried her naturally into the collision. To medical experts, this looked more like devastating bad luck than deliberate targeting. Yet, that scientific perspective couldn't erase the optics, couldn't explain away Hartley's grin, couldn't address the pattern of dangerous plays that fans had uncovered. Social media became the battleground where this story truly exploded. Sophie's approach to the digital firestorm was masterful in its restraint. While fans were demanding her to speak out, to go on angry rants, to call out the league publicly, she chose a different path. Her strategic silence spoke louder than any press conference could have. When she did engage, it was subtle but powerful. A simple repost here, a sarcastic caption there. The evidence kept mounting. Fans started sharing clips of other incidents involving Sophie that had been dismissed by officials. There was the play where JCS Sheldon shoved her out of bounds on a baseline drive, but referees ruled she had simply stepped out as if the contact never happened. Then came the footage of Hartley's elbow to Sophie's neck that sent her crashing to the floor, only for people to claim she was flopping. Sophie's response to that one was perfect. They said, "I flopped, LOL," a caption that captured both humor and disbelief at how routinely her safety was being dismissed. These weren't isolated highlights anymore. Strung together across social platforms, they became a timeline of systematic neglect. Each clip was another reminder that Sophie wasn't just battling opponents on the court. She was fighting a system that too often looked the other way when players like her got hurt. What started as one player's injury became a voice for countless others who fear being dismissed when they're hurt, shoved aside, or told to play through dangerous situations. Sophie's quiet defiance reminded everyone watching that in the digital age, athletes don't need to scream to be heard. A single repost, a brief caption, or even strategic silence can cut deeper than any traditional media appearance. The controversy exposed something much more troubling about the WNBA's leadership structure. Women's sports are still fighting for recognition and respect, and the league sits at the center of that battle. But too many decision makers are completely disconnected from the lived experiences of female athletes. They're making rulings from boardrooms, far removed from the bruises, sweat, and sacrifices these players endure daily. Without that first-hand understanding, empathy becomes nearly impossible, and moments of real danger, like Sophie's injury, get treated as mere accidents instead of wake-up calls demanding immediate change. The solution isn't complicated, but it requires courage. The WNBA needs more women in leadership positions, former players, coaches, and advocates who understand what it means to play through pain while fighting for visibility. These are women who know the sting of being underestimated, who recognize the risks that never make highlight reels, who can bring authenticity and compassion that can't be replicated by outsiders who've never lived that struggle. Now the WNBA stands at a crossroads that could define its future for decades. This incident has become more than just another on-court clash. It's a litmus test of how seriously the league values player safety, credibility, and legacy. The silence has been deafening. Fans who once filled arenas and rallied behind the game's growth are now questioning if their voices matter at all. The stakes couldn't be higher. This isn't just about momentum or marketing. It's about the integrity of the sport itself. Athletes want to know the league has their backs, that their well-being won't be sacrificed for entertainment value. Fans want accountability, transparency, and real action, not just polished statements and empty promises. History shows that moments of crisis can spark transformation, but only if organizations have the courage to face uncomfortable truths. The WNBA has a window of opportunity right now. They can enforce stronger disciplinary measures, restructure leadership to include more female voices, and prove they're serious about protecting their athletes. Or they can continue the pattern of avoidance and watch their credibility erode further. Sophie Cunningham's story isn't over. She's not just fighting to return to the hardwood. She's battling to ensure her legacy isn't reduced to that one devastating fall in Connecticut. The question that will define the WNBA's future remains unanswered. Will they finally step up to protect their players, or will they keep falling short when it matters most?